Wednesday, August the 31st. Lake level is right at 912. It's dropped probably 1.5 feet since I report last week. And I'd say by morning it'll be down 911 or so. I've been generating quite a bit of water. Water temperature's about the same, about 82, 83 degrees, pretty much all over the lake. A lot of things, a lot of bait starting to move around, a lot of shad starting to show up in the backs of the pockets, even in the centers of the creeks. So I think if we get a few cool days or several cool days, cool that water temperature down a little bit, that top water bite will really start to come on. Now, we've been having fun the last week or so. We've been catching fish, several different ways. The drop shot bite's still really been good. And what's kind of odd about the drop shot bite is no matter what end of the lake you fish in, the fish really aren't that deep. The main deal seems to be you want to keep your bait anywhere from like 22 to maybe 26, 27 feet deep. A lot of the fish are pretty close to the bottom. I'm not catching as many suspended fish as I had been. A lot of the stuff I'm fishing is long, flat gravel points. The majority of the fish seem to be relating to gravel points, mostly main lake. Sometimes you'll be out in 35, 40 feet of water. But like I say, the key is to keep your bait in that 20, 25 foot range. A lot of them are coming up off bottom, and it seems like no matter where you're at on the lake, whether, regardless of the depth of the water, the majority of the fish and the shad that you're seeing are around 25 foot. If you're out over deep boat docks, where I am catching a few on a drop shot, they're still only, 20, 25 feet deep. Now, I've got to catch a lot, you catch a lot of numbers of them. We've had some 50, 60 fish days this week. And, it's like 5 or 6 short fish to a keeper. And to me, the better bite in the numbers seems to be up in the James River, Ants Creek area on up, or I should say from about Baxter to Ants Creek up to about point 12 seems to be the best drop shot bite for me. I've been down by the dam several days. I can catch fish down there off a lot of them points, but a lot of them are, 1 and 2 fish a point, and then you got to move. Those other areas from Baxter up into James River, there's times you can catch 15, 20 and never hardly move the boat. Just stay in one little area, and there's bait and shad, bait and fish in the same area. They seem to be grouped up pretty good. Now, another thing that's starting to work pretty good is I've been getting bit good on a spoon. Not on a lot of docks, but the quality's been a lot better. We're catching a lot more largemouth around these deep docks, throwing a spoon in around the slips, and around the boat lifts. And I've been up in the James River a few days also. There's a shallow bite and a deep bite going. The shallow bite up there, I've been way up James and Flat Creek, and I've been getting bit up there on the square bills, someday a spinnerbait. But the square bills that have been working pretty good is like a 1.5, a 4.0, and a 2.5. Now, there's not a lot of difference between the 4.0 Strike King and the 2.5. It's kind of in between the 2.5 and the 1.5, the 4.0. But it's a good bait. It'll get down about 3 to 5 feet. If I get too shallow with the 2.5, you'll pull up a lot of debris and leaves, and that's where the 1.5 will work a little better. But the colors that seem to be working good for me are the citrus shad, chartreuse, sexy shad, and then also a green gizzard. And even down lake, today we're in the Indian Point, Kimbling City area. The backs of the creeks have got good color to them, and there's a lot of them little shad showing up. In a lot of those areas where the little bait's starting to show up, we're starting to get bit on a combination of topwater lures. Some buzz baits, whopper plopper, and poppars. Now, the whopper plopper, the smaller ones seem to be working a little bit better for me. And if it's overcast, I'll usually throw a white or a black, or depends on how dirty the water is, I'll stay with the white or black. But if it's down in a little bit clearer water and the sun's up, I'll throw, it's kind of like a sexy shad pattern. And on the poppars, probably my favorite poppar bait is a Yellow Magic. This is a Splash It from Strike King. This is the Yellow Magic. My Yellow Magic, I got all the paint wore off. The little skirt on the rear hook's about wore off. But I talked to Jim today at the Sportsman Factory Outlet, and they've got nobody in this area has stocked the Yellow Magic before, and they're going to stock about 6 or 7 different colors. He said he should have them in the next day or two. It's probably by far one of the best pop-Rs I've ever thrown. But it seems like a lot of the fish, where the small bait is, the smaller topwater baits are working a little bit better. Even out in front of some of these deeper docks early in the morning, there's been some schooling activity, and I've been throwing a redfin and a big whopper plopper and even a spook and a sexy dog, but I'm getting more bites on the smaller spook, the pop-R, and the smaller whopper plopper. But back in the shallows, back in some of the backs of the pockets, and even up in the river, if you cover a lot of water, I've been able to catch some fish on a buzzbait. And I primarily throw a black buzzbait. A lot of times I take the skirt right off, and on this one here I've got a horny toad. This is a crockett gator. It's got a flat head. If you want it to clack, you just bend the wire down a little bit. Good little buzzbait. This is one I've got from Strike King I've been playing with. It's kind of like a swing head. I left the skirt on it, and I've got a horny toad on it also, and I painted up my blade black. I like black on black on the skirt and the blade. Now the thing about the crocker gator, a little bit lighter head, I can fish this bait a little bit slower and keep it up on top. The heavier one here, I'm having to move it a lot faster to keep it up. Seems like if I work the bait a little bit slower, I'll be getting a few more bites. So the crocker gator's been working for me a little bit better right now. I think when the fish get a little bit more active, this heavier bait, which I can throw further. And one thing, when you take the skirt off a lot of these buzz baits, you can really cast them so much further. They don't try to helicopter when you cast. And with the horny toad on there, you get a lot more action on the tail. Now, that bite there, as the water cools down and shad start migrating back into the creeks like they're starting to now, we get more shad in there, there's going to be more fish back in there as well. And another thing that's starting to happen too, we lose a lot of our smallmouth from June till about the 1st of September. And down at the lower end of the lake, I'm starting to catch some smallmouth on a jig. I'm still fishing some of the conservation brush piles, but it's not a real strong jig bite, football jig. Also, some of the shallow docks, I've been getting some bites, but I've got to fish several docks just to get a few bites. But when I do get a bite, most of them are keeper bite. So, it's kind of interesting with the lake being this low. We haven't seen it this low probably in a couple years, and it looks like it's going to continue to drop unless we start getting some rain. So kind of what it's doing, if you're out there fishing, there's a lot of cedar trees on these points, there's a lot of brush piles starting to show up. It's a good time to take your boat, run it right in on them brush piles, set a waypoint, mark them, so when the lake comes back up, to normal pool, you'll have some cover to throw, like crankbaits and jigs and different things too in that 8 to 10 foot of water. So it's a really good time when you're out there fishing. If you see some of that structure that's starting to pop out of the water, you need to either make a mental note, take a picture, take a waypoint of it for future reference. So until next week, good luck, good fishing.